Radio Raheem here with Bob Arum. You know, Bob, it's a pleasure for me and most boxing fans to look at that marquee and see Top Rank and Golden Boys logos right next to each other. How has it been making this fight?
Very easy. I mean, Eric and Oscar are good boxing people. They talk with our boxing people, and we make fights. I mean, this is really the second one we've done now in the last few months. The first one will be on November 8th when Abregu faces Saddam Ali on the Hopkins Kovalev card, and now Herrera facing Benavides on the Tim Bradley card. So I think it's great. That's the way boxing always was. That's the way King and I always operated. Nothing stopped us from putting fights together. It was only one guy who prevented it, and that was Schaefer.
Wow. You know, we've got Timothy Bradley, who obviously was unsuccessful against Manny Pacquiao, and Diego Chavez wasn't unsuccessful technically against Brandon Rios. But to put these two fighters together, is this something of a bit of a reward for Chavez? Even though he wasn't technically the victor, it seemed like he may have been on his way to win that fight. You feel like this is something that the fans wanted to see?
I'm not in the reward business. I'm in putting on fights that the fans want to see. And that is not necessarily aligned with the reward business. I believe that Bradley and Chavez will be one hell of a match. They'll go at each other, and the fans will be entertained. And really, that's my job.
In the 147 and 140 division especially, there are a lot of doors open to Timothy Bradley if Top Rank and Golden Boy continue to work together like this. Are there any fights down the line that you've seen in the past where, like, that'd be a great fight for Tim, or see now that, like, this would be something that the fans would love, that would eat up?
Tim Bradley is a brave warrior. As long as the money is right, he'll fight anybody. And I think the biggest, most lucrative fight for him is down the road against the winner of Cotto Canelo. And I think he'd look forward to that kind of fight.
Speaking of fighters that'll fight anybody, I've recently spoken with Ruslan Provodnikov, who's feeling frustrated. Seems like he doesn't think he can get any decent fights here in the States. He's got to travel back to Moscow to put on a card. How hard has it been making fights for him, and is there any opportunity for him to get big fights here in the States?
The problem is it's been difficult dealing with his promoter. And I don't think his promoter's done him any favors. Ruslan is a very, very crowd-pleasing guy, and I think there are a lot of spots where he would figure. But the promoter has to realize that people are paying the fighter, and they're not paying so that he puts a lot of money in his pocket.
And lastly, Bob, the big fight, the last big fight of the year, pay-per-view, Manny Pacquiao, Chris Algieri in China, Pacquiao's return to China. What do you think will be the reaction to the fans seeing Chris Algieri on that next level? I mean, you've been around fights a long time. People think that maybe his experience isn't up to the level of Pacquiao. Do you see something there that would beg to differ?
I think clearly Algieri's experience isn't on Pacquiao's level. I mean, but Algieri has certain advantages that if he utilizes, makes it a very tough fight. His boxing ability, his great stamina, and also the fact that he towers over Pacquiao. Those are not easy elements for Pacquiao to deal with. And Pacquiao is working extraordinarily hard.
With his height and length, he looks like he could be something of a tune-up, if not, I mean, certainly a decent fighter on his own, and that'll be a fight that people will watch, but it could be something preparing Pacquiao for Danny Garcia, who's Pacquiao's mentioned he wants to fight. Oscar said that that's a fight he can make. Is that something on the horizon, and do you feel like that's a good fight for Pacquiao?
Well, I don't think that Danny Garcia, if he fought Algieri today, would have much of a chance. I mean, Algieri is a real great athlete. You know, that wasn't why we made the fight between him and Pacquiao. We were going to make Pacquiao and Provodnikov, and once Algieri licked him, then we figured Algieri had enough of a backstory to make this fight very interesting.
Everybody's still kind of rocking and reeling from last Saturday night. We saw Triple G, the knockout artist, put down you know, another fighter in unceremonious fashion. But when he's asked about who he really wants to fight, and there are a few fights out there that the fans would love to see, it's always Chavez that's first out of his mouth. How close is that fight to being made? And has Chavez come to you and said, hey, I want Triple G?
Well, Chavez hasn't come to me to say that he wants Triple G. At one point, we tried to put that fight together. I think, realistically, the fight that Chavez would most like is with Carl Frosch.
All right, well, there you go. Bob Arum laid it all out for you. Radio Raheem with Top Rank's Bob Arum.